You're listening to Suburban Happy Hour with Anne-Marie
and Julia
and Francesca,
the podcast where we make delicious cocktails
or mocktails
and talk about everything under the sun.
because the best conversations happen at happy hour. Hi guys, welcome back to Suburban Happy Hour. We have another lovely guest with us, Miss Francesca.
Yay!
Thanks for being here.
thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Oh, we're super excited to have you. Francesca, I know Francesca from our old job, so she no longer works there, but I'm so happy I met you. You were like one of the best people there. Always like so bright, bubbly, always something positive to say, so yeah.
Thanks. You're so
welcome.
sweet.
You're welcome. And then her cocktail of choice was a classic Moscow Mule. You can't go wrong with a Moscow Mule.
And they're so good.
And like, I'm surprised nobody else has requested a Moscow Mule yet. You're the first
I
one.
know.
I just wanted something to not have my Asian flow as well, and you'll probably see it. Yeah. But I just wanted something to keep it kind of tame and at bay, and I love ginger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ginger is so refreshing, and it's like I've been using it a lot more in my cooking too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it just gives it like an extra little boost of flavor. I feel like so.
It's good for your immune system too.
It is.
I know that's what I need it for.
Yeah.
Like, it's good soup for my immune system.
Yeah. So then the usual to start things off. How are your 20s treating you, Francesca?
Honestly, I'm so blessed. I mean, there are days where I'm kind of like,
Relatable.
No, as I'm sure everyone feels in their 20s, and just in life in general. But so far, I'm so blessed, so grateful. I'm so lucky to be here and be with you all and just living my 20s life.
Yeah,
Good.
so
Very good. Is there anything that you would say you've really had to overcome that you weren't expecting in your 20s, or has it been pretty, chill?
I think I'm still working on overcoming the imposter syndrome and navigating friendship breakups or setting boundaries and all of that. So I think it was something that no one really talked about when you're a teenager and you're growing up and going to school and all of that. So I think as I've gotten older, I'm really trying to understand where my boundaries are and how to let some things go that are no longer serving me and things like that. So yeah.
That's great though. That's so important. And like you said, that's not taught, and we rarely hear about setting our own boundaries. That's not taught in school. Some parents don't tell you that, so it's really hard to learn that lesson on your own. But you're going through it.
Right, literally. What is a boundary? And that's such a vital social skill that we really aren't. There's a lot of things in school that we're not taught that would be well, this would help me when I'm older, but whatever.
Been good to know.
It would have been good to know. No. And with that being said, is there any specific practices or things that you've been really leaning into trying to implement into your lifestyle, or anything that you've already been doing that's been helping? Or
I think this sounds really common to a lot of people our age specifically as well, but it's just really learning the self-love, self-care. But I think also to add to that, I really want to start doing philanthropic work and really
nice.
Right now I'm running for the Chicago Marathon.
My God, how is that?
Oh my God. If you know me, I'm not a runner. So me doing this was very much because I wanted to run for this organization that I really care about, and I eventually want to become an advocate for them as well. It's
Oh, wow.
for CASA of Cook County, it's case appointed special advocate. So I eventually want to become an advocate for them as well. It's specifically for kids in the foster system that have been neglected and abused, and that's always been something that I hold dear to my heart. So I really want to get to that side of me as well.
That's awesome. How you don't have to go into it too much, but what has the training been like for that? As somebody that doesn't run, because I've always said one day I'm gonna run the Chicago Marathon, and all my friends are
that's how all my friends react. They're like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, for sure." Last year, I didn't do the ballot. I did it by choosing a charity that I wanted to run for. My boss actually, she ran it. She did the Couch to Marathon, and now she's been running marathons.
And she loves it.
Yeah, she's actually doing the one that goes from I think Denver to Canada, like the cross.
I don't even know it was a thing. Oh my god.
Yeah,
wow.
I didn't know either, but she's crazy.
Wow.
So like I have mad respect for her though. But she told me like it was opening up, and I was like, you know what? Like as a little kid, I said like on my bucket list it was to do a triathlon, and I'm like, let's be so for real right now.
Hey, you never know.
No, like let's be so for real right now. Let's see if you can do a marathon first. And the training has been hard.
Yeah.
I'm doing like PT for preventative care. Like I actually just emailed her before I came just to be like, hey, like I'm kind of behind on my schedule because it's an 18-week plan.
Okay.
For like a novice runner.
Got it.
So I'm supposed to do a 15 this weekend, and I can barely make a 10. So
15 miles.
Yeah. So
Oh,
you know, so it's just kind of
gosh,
it's been crazy. But if I have to like crawl to the finish line, I will.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's where my mindset's at. So
That's incredible.
That's awesome. Good for you. That is.
Yes.
Oh, you're gonna do great. Like
I know. Good luck on that journey.
crossing
That
that
is
finish line after 26 miles. Is it 26 and a half or is it 26?
26.2.
Yeah.
26.2. It's like, hell yeah, I did that. No matter how I did it, I did
Yeah.
it.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
like I like even went down by the minute. I'm just like, okay, so how long can my longest mile be? Like
Right.
like you know, I'm breaking it down to the minute just because I'm also like I am less than 7 weeks out now, so
Okay.
I like as it gets closer I get like a little bit more scared, but
Yeah.
also like I'm trying to do things that scare me.
Right.
So it's and this terrifies me.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
So,
you're
yeah.
No,
inspiring
good.
me.
Yeah, literally.
You
Good
really
for
are.
Let's see if I make it first, and then you know.
But you know, even just putting in the effort to try, and like
Yeah.
you said, like you could barely do a 10. I can barely walk one. So
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
give credit where credit
Yeah,
is due.
like,
Like,
That's
yourself.
supposed to be so for
Yeah.
real right now. Like I struggled with 3 yesterday, so
Yeah.
you know it's
Uh-huh.
like it's just always like a constant progress, and it's really
Right.
the motivation too, and like
Right.
staying consistent as
Yeah.
with everything else in life, right? So
Exactly.
that's why I wanted to do it first, is because I thought like if I become an advocate for this organization, that is also a time commitment, and that's something that you need to stay consistent with.
Yeah.
because you can't just like ghost these kids. Like
Yeah.
No,
you know,
literally.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I am also known for ghosting, and like not
Yeah.
like I am horrible
Girls.
at texting and responding, as I'm sure you
No, you were fine with me.
you know. So I just knew that like if I wanted to make this commitment, I needed to make some other commitment first to see if I can really like push through.
Okay, well, I applaud that.
wow, yes,
That's awesome. Good for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay, well, diving right into our topic now. So, Francesca's coming on to talk about something, you know, very brave, like for you
Yeah.
to talk about your experience and for your truth, how you were saying it. So I'm excited to see what you have to say. But so Francesca grew up as an immigrant to the U.S. So we kind of want to unravel that and see what your journey has been.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm like, okay, where do I start?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm like super awkward.
No, you're
you're
fine.
so
I really
fine.
just feels like I'm a little nervy. This is because it's kind of like, as I was growing up, talking about like being an immigrant or not being like a citizen of the States wasn't really something that like we wanted like out there.
Yeah,
Got it.
of course.
I moved to the States when I was 8. My mom moved here first, actually, almost 20 years now. It was
Okay.
September of 2004. Then my dad moved here February of 2005. Then I moved here July of 2005.
Okay.
Got it.
So I moved here when I was 8. Freshly, like, you know, what's
Yeah.
the fresh off the boat? Like,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
that expression is, I'm pretty sure that's it. There's like a
No,
whole
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I moved here when I was 8. I didn't really like, I just thought that I knew like I was gonna stay here for a while, but I thought like the primary reason that I was like coming was like to get my parents back to the Philippines. So like I was
okay.
kind of like, okay, like yeah, I'll get to see mom and dad again, and then like
We're
after
back.
sometime we're gonna
Yeah.
go back home. 20 years later, like almost
Okay.
20 years for me,
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Wow.
So yeah, that was kind of like super funny. I don't think I thought about it that deeply while I was moving. Like I was just, you know, preparing to come here. Like I knew that there was like some legal stuff that was going on to make sure that we could come here and everything. Like at first it was supposed to be my uncle that was going to come here with me, so I wouldn't have to come here alone as an 8-year-old.
Got it.
And he ended up getting denied the visa to come here, so my mom and like my family had to scramble last minute to find like a stranger. The first time I met her was at the airport.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Like
Go-
you're saying in the Philippines.
Yep.
She met you. Okay.
Yeah, so I was in the Philippines airport. I was saying bye to my family. I met this woman that was, you know, another Filipina that I was, you know, going, like, she'd be my go-to if I had like any concerns or anything, but I like didn't really know her until I met her at the airport.
Wow.
So yeah, I like didn't think about it too deeply. I was just super excited to see my family again and to see my parents. So yeah, like it was kind of crazy. I look back at that now and I was like, as an 8-year-old, I kind of just like went here and I was like, yeah.
I mean, but as an 8-year-old, you're not really aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember like any of those feelings, or like kind of when you were leaving, were you sad, happy, excited, or like you just were just like, oh, I'm going somewhere else?
Like, oh, I'm going.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, yeah, cool. Like, I get to see my parents again. Like, I remember my family that I had stayed with, and I was just like super close to, had like 20 pesos, and they all wrote on it, and like had like messages from me, and I'm like, is it that serious? Like, like in my mind, I was just like, why are you guys like?
Like I'm gonna be back.
Like, what do you mean? But I have that like with me still. I have that in my little wallet somewhere.
Oh, that's so special.
But yeah, I was just like, I wasn't really scared. Like, I was just kind of like, okay, like going along. Cause even my grandma actually let me know this. I completely forgot about it. But ever since I was young, like I think around 5, like I'd already been taking flights by myself to like go see my grandparents out in like different islands and all that. And I think that was kind of common at that time too. So yeah, I was just like, okay, another flight. Like,
right.
Not even a really long flight. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so then this might change the tune of this next question that I wanted to ask you. So it kind of seemed like you were more so excited just to see your mom and dad again, which is, of course. But then I guess did they tell you that you are going to America, or how was that explained? Because my question was like, once you got here, was America what you thought it was going to be?
So I don't think, like, if I'm recalling correctly, I'm sure my parents will have like a different answer.
Yeah.
But I just remember it being like, this was going to be good for our family. Like, it was, you know, America, the land of opportunity, the land of the free. Like, you know, as I'm sure we've heard.
Right.
You know,
the American dream, all that.
Yep, so many times. So I just knew that it was something that was going to be good for my family, that, you know, like my mom was working really hard to like get us here and to get my dad and I here. So yeah, I didn't like really have any like expectation per se. I was just kind of like, okay, like another place, like I'm going to be there with my family. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I want, obviously as a little kid, I just wanted whatever was best for my family.
Right,
so even though like I didn't want to like leave and you know, like what I knew, I just wanted to be with my family. So yeah.
No, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Are you still in contact with anybody back from the Philippines?
I have so much family back.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it's insane. Like and I have so much family here too, that it's kind of like, how big are we?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like Filipinos too. It's just like, even if they're not like blood related, your aunt, they're still your aunt.
Yeah.
Got it.
Still your tita. So yeah, I have so much family back home still. I have so many family members here, like all over, honestly. It's been kind of crazy how we've all been like everywhere. Like my aunt, she lives in Austria now. So when I went to Austria, I got to see her and
that's so nice.
where she lives now. So yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
So how would you say your life was like growing up in America as an immigrant?
That's a really good question. I think that I was super blessed because my mom, like, and like my parents, like, and my mom specifically, like, why we even came here is because she got an opportunity to become a special education teacher here. I think it's called something different now, but she like got called to like be here, and it like was an opportunity for her. Like at that time, she was also working like multiple jobs. My dad was a lawyer, like in law school and like everything too. So my mom has always done everything to make sure like our family was good. So yeah, like I knew why we were coming here. I knew the reason, but oh my God, did it suck in the beginning. No one could understand me. I didn't have any friends. And as you can probably tell, even when first meeting me, like I'm very like, oh my God, hi. Like super like outgoing, wants to be friends with everyone. I've always been like that, even as a kid. But when I came here, like no one could really understand me. Even though like my mom was an English teacher as well. So like I knew more English, I think, than most kids my age when I was still in the Philippines. It was still like really hard. Like I remember, I didn't have any. So the first grade that I came, like, sorry, not the first grade, but my first grade in the States was as a third grader. So I went to school and no one could really understand me. I didn't really have any friends. So my aunt, she's not really my blood aunt. She's just like, you know, one of the other teachers that also got called to the States. She was living with my mom at the time, and we were all living in the same place. And she taught special ed at the school that I went to. So I remember I would just hang out with her in her class and like the special ed kids. And sorry, correct me if this is also like not the appropriate term for special ed.
You're okay. You're fine.
No, it is. Yeah.
But I like didn't have any friends, so my only friends were special ed kids, and then they ended up beating me up in the playground one time because one of the girls, she was a fourth grader, and she thought that I liked the fifth grader or something, or that the fifth grader liked me, so she instructed the fifth grader, this guy, to like come and jump me in the playground, essentially.
A guy?
Yeah. And
oh my god,
I like couldn't like, so and that was like, if I like kind of joke about it sometimes. I was just like, damn, like special ed kids, like, you know, couldn't even like hang with me, like they didn't even like me. So wow.
Yeah.
Like,
wow.
I can't wait to look at this later and be like, whoa. You really shared that. But so like, yeah, it was kind of like, fuck. I mean, sorry, I don't know.
No, that's fine.
You're good.
That's fine.
But like, obviously I didn't know the word, especially like not knowing English back then, but I was just like, oh, okay, like,
is this what you like?
No,
what?
Hello. My
Hello.
mom told me, she's like, you didn't even like think that they were being mean to you, or you were being bullied. You were just like, it's okay, like it was your fault, like, or something like that. And I was like,
I see.
What? Like I was like, no. Looking back at that now, it's just like, that was shady. Like I didn't.
That's shitty.
I didn't do anything. Like I wasn't trying. Like,
oh my god.
You know. So yeah, I ended up transferring to a magnet school after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like everything. So. From then, like, I just became like an avid reader. Like, even if people couldn't understand me, like, I was also a singer, so like I'd sing in church choir and stuff, and all these things. And we'd have like Filipino parties with the other Filipino teachers that migrated here the same time as my mom, with their kids and stuff. So at least I had that sense of community stuff. And those Filipino parties were always like karaoke, Filipino food, like, so you know, it was really nice to have that. But in school and in school settings, I remember this girl that she had been with me since 4th grade to middle school. She told me like that she couldn't understand me until I was like in 6th or 7th grade.
Got it.
Okay.
So I just remember I was just like reading a lot. Like even if I like couldn't talk to a lot of people, I just would become an avid reader. I remember like winning an award in 5th grade or something because I read the most books and stuff. But that was like me. Like I just, you know. Immerse myself in my books, and then now I speak English.
Yeah, so is that really how you kind of learned how to speak fluent English? Was just through your books or through like listening to other people? Or?
And my mom speaks like.
Oh, that's right. You said she was an English teacher.
Yeah, she was an English tutor when we were in the Philippines. So yeah, it was like a combination of a lot of different things. I think like watching, like I remember watching ABC Family back before it was Freeform, and like watching Gilmore Girls or something. So yeah, I just learned through that, and I think honestly I do say like the reading, like I definitely contributed to that, like 'cause my vocabulary and like everything kind of went up since then.
Yeah,
so.
got it. It's so funny that you said TV shows, because one of our good friends, she like minored in Spanish, and she said the way that she really like learned that language was to listen or like watch American shows but in Spanish. So she would like know, like she would pick up on some words through like that. So that's like really cool that it's
that's also
goes
like
through like that.
Vernacular. I feel like when you're watching a TV show instead of just like doing like the formal. Right. No, for sure.
So then, kind of based on your experience, how long did it really take you to actually form like a connection within your school?
I think it was when I went to middle school.
Okay.
Because the only time I ever went to public school was like 3rd to 5th grade. So I went to that school in 3rd grade, transferred out to a magnet school, and then after that I was in private school for the rest of my life. And even before, when I was in the Philippines, I was just in private school.
Okay.
So I think it was when I went to a private middle school in 6th grade, and then I also remember like seeing 2 of the girls that I went to grade school with. I remember she's like my longest standing friend to this time. I remember seeing her first day of 6th grade, and I was like all up in her face, like, hey, oh my God, you're here. I didn't know you were coming here, like whatever. And she did not like me. She actually was one of my bullies in 5th grade. She threw my favorite headband over the fence. I still tell her that to this day. And she's like, that was such an ugly headband. I did you a favor. And I was like, you are still a bully. Like, you know, it's like still like, and I remember telling my mom, just like, remember when you asked me where that headband was? Vanessa was, if she sees this, well, she knows. But like, she was the one that threw it over the fence after pulling my hair and like whatever. So yeah, but we became really good friends, and then I just started like talking to a lot more people. It was obviously a smaller school, so like no, like, you know, you didn't have a choice. Like, you need to talk to me, or
sorry.
Like, so, right, exactly.
You know? But yeah, so I think it was around like that girl, the other girl that said that she couldn't understand me until we were like in 6th grade or 6th or 7th.
Okay.
So yeah, but my parents were also really strict when I was young, so I couldn't like really hang out like that or or have like any friends over until later on. When I was, I think, really in high school was when I started hanging out with my friends more frequently.
Nice.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And then with all these experiences, how would you say that they've kind of shaped your identity and who you are now?
I think that I'm still kind of unpacking and discovering like how my experiences as a child, even as like an early adult, you know, shaped who I am and like my identity now, because I think it's still like a work in progress. I think who I was when I was younger was definitely people pleasing and really just wanted a friend because I had none. So I always like, I remember like I was so desperate for like anyone to become my friend when I was younger that, and then in the Philippines you kind of saw this sometimes too, but I remember like hiring bodyguards for like 10 cents or something because I didn't want to get beat up by the special ed kids again.
Oh my gosh.
Or like having like an experience where I was, and I like hate admitting this, but even when I was younger I was just like, I just wanted someone to say that they were my friend, so I'd be like, I'll give you 10 cents if you tell people you're my friend. And like that was like, and I think like I look back on that and I was like, damn, like you just really want, because I was an only child as well. Like, my sister didn't come until later on, and you know, I went from being around family all the time and like being able to go wherever to like it's just my parents and I primarily, except for the parties and the weekends with other people. But yeah, so I think like learning how to, you know, realize like where my boundaries are and like what is something I'm doing to just appease someone versus something that I actually feel right with, and knowing like what the difference is as well between just being nice out of habit versus like being kind and like feeling that. So I think how growing up as this immigrant child that like I didn't even know I was an immigrant until like later on. Like I'm so like embarrassed to even like admit when I found out I was an immigrant, because it was too like it was too late. Like at that point, like you should have known. Like, you know, what do you mean? Like so I like didn't understand. Like I thought I was just like going with the flow. Like I didn't think there was anything really wrong with me until I started like realizing like, no, you want everyone to like you way too much. Like you are, you know, you are such a yes girl to the point where like, who are you? Like,
but you know, you got to give yourself grace too, because coming to a completely different place, like every kid just wants to, and even every adult just wants to feel loved and wanted and, you know, cared for in that way. So although maybe you're embarrassed about it now, like, you know, you
like, I'm just like cringe. And also, like, that was a little cringe.
No, also I feel like you were a kid too, and every kid wants friends.
Exactly.
Every kid, you know, wants to feel like they fit in. So
especially like, you know, in a new place and everything. So I do try to tell myself that too. And I understand now, but I remember like someone had brought it up. Like we were hanging out at my place and she's known me for forever, and she brought up, she's like, she used to do this and like that and that. And like I like looked at her and I'm like, what? Why do you have to share? Like what? Like, you know, I could share things about you too, but like, I'm not gonna do that to you. But, like it took me back, and I literally remember like almost being like upset with her, because I was like, that is like a version of myself that like I don't even want to like like jump back to, or like
you've outgrown that aspect.
Right.
But I think it's also really important to know why I was in that place.
Right.
And, like, that is what I'm unpacking and like, you know, discovering now, and like trying to also give myself grace at the same time, but really understanding like, where does that stem from? You know, where was that people pleasing? Is it because you just had no friends, or is it like something deeper
than that?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you, when it sounds like you are figuring yourself out still, which we all are.
Yeah.
Which we all
20s are the time.
Yeah, exactly.
No time but now.
But when you were younger, did you find that you were kind of like trying to assimilate to the American culture? And kind of, where did your heritage come into play with that? Was it kind of like, I am now here, and then that's all pushed to like the backside, like the back burner? Or how did that dynamic work for you?
I think for a really long time I was just trying to fit in and find like where my people were in like a social setting or in school, because school is where you spent like majority of your time, right? So I remember like in 7th grade, like Aeropostale was such a big thing.
Oh my God, yes.
And like with the Aeropostale signs and like, you know, and yes, right? And I remember
you were that girl.
No, arguing with my mom, and I was like, why can't you just take me to Aeropostale or
wait, justice?
Yeah, like I don't understand. Like everyone's wearing this, I just want, and my mom's like, no.
Yeah.
Like that's like, I remember I had like 1, maybe 2, and I think 1 I took from my friend. But because my mom's always had like a sense of fashion and style, and she would like take me to Talbot's or Macy's or Nordstrom or like whatever, and she's like, do you not understand, this is free people and you want Aeropostale? And I'm like, yes. Like that, like I want to be like the other kids in like free dress Fridays or whatever. So yeah. Oh, like no, my sister's kind of in that stage now. Though she's like, I want something.
We all went through that stage. Yeah. Oh God.
And that's just how it is. You know, you want to just fit in and you want to look like your peers, and if you don't, you sometimes you are like talked down upon if you don't have what they have, or you just even like internalize that and feel it. So
you just didn't want to like stand out.
Yes.
And I think that's what's also like, going to a little tangent, I think that's also what's so different from kids nowadays versus when like we were growing up, or when like what I experienced growing up, because now I think like to stand out and to like, you know, make a name for yourself, to like be that girl, like to be the weirdo or like whatever is now like you're unique, you're interesting.
This is so true. Wait, I didn't think about that at all.
No, like when I was growing up, oh my God, all I wanted to be was like another girl, like that was an American, like I wanted to be a Barbie. I always loved Barbies too, so I just wanted to be a Barbie, like I wanted to be your average white American girl, except Montana's fuck and like I had Asian eyes, so like I could never be that. So it was something that like I also had to come to terms with, that like, you know, you can't be like that girl. Like I also went to a high school where it was primarily, you know, white. It was an all-girls school as well, and it was at the time that I was in high school there, it was I think like one of the top 5 richest towns in America.
Oh wow.
So it was like a very privileged school as well, and coming from like, you know, like we weren't bad, but we weren't like old money or like anything like that. So, and there wasn't like, not everyone from my school or my high school was like that, but you could just tell also the difference. I never like Birkenstocks or Sperry's before. I would be that girl with my skirt wearing my Birkenstocks or Sperry's just to be like, like now I'm like,
I fit in. I am one of you.
But that goes kind of perfectly into our next question about how did you really like balance the expectation of your family versus like those of your friends and like what you were seeing.
Right.
I don't think I did. Like, I think that I always felt the expectation from my parents and from my family. And I didn't really like branch out or anything until like my parents were going through their like divorce process and everything, and I, you know, had my weekends free because I wasn't going somewhere else. So I like started hanging out with my friends and everything, but then that also was like a hard time being, you know, my sister was really young. She wasn't born until I was like 14 or 15.
Got it.
So I was like, you know, designated babysitter from the jump, and then also trying to navigate that while being in high school and like doing all of these things.
I think we kind of touched on this, but for the mentor, going kind of back to your auntie, how she kind of helped you figure yourself out the first year that you were, that was the first year that you were here, right?
Yeah.
Were there any other like figureheads or role models that you had that you could lean on?
It was really her for a bit. And then I also remember one of the girls from the Filipino parties, like she was around the same age. So I kind of viewed her as an ate, which is like an older sister in Tagalog. But I would like just share everything with her too. And I would like ask for her advice and stuff. But other than that, like I think why, you know, like my first few years here were also really hard was because I was an only child with two of my parents that like, and transitioning from being surrounded by family all the time and like kids, and honestly even just being able to go outside anywhere really or like have that option to being here where like my parents like were very strict when I was young. Like I remember we had a house and I could not bike or be anywhere outside of like the 3 houses in front and the houses next to us. If I went outside that perimeter, I knew I'd be in trouble. And we were just one circle. Like it wasn't even a big neighborhood like that. We were in a fairly safe area too. And like I just, they were super like, I don't know what it was. I think it's just like strict parents in general. But
was it like that back in the Philippines too?
A little bit sometimes, but if I were with other family members, I'm good.
Right. Like,
I knew I was cool. You know.
Okay.
That's why I think when I went back home when I was like 12 or 13 or something, my mom was in Singapore and I was with my grandparents. I remember I begged her. I was like, I don't want to go back. I was like, can I please just stay here? Like my grandparents already said like, yeah, you're fine, you can stay here or whatever. And my mom's like telling me like, shut up. You're going back. And I was like, why? Like, I don't, you know, because I remember, like, I had so much freedom. Like, my grandparents would let me go to the movies by myself. Like, all I had to ride was a little tricycle, and, like, they'd get someone for me. And back here, it was like, could not do that. I did not get my real freedom until my sister was born, and they were distracted with her. And my parents were going through their whole thing. That was like... Like, now's my time. So, that was the craziest. But,
Okay. Yeah. So, what kind of advice would you give any young immigrants who are growing up here now? Because I know it's, unfortunately, like you see on the news, it seems just to be getting, I mean, and I'm sure your experience was so hard too, as you said, just seems to like be getting harder and harder and harder and harder. And it's just like, what advice, and even people that are not immigrants here, like how can we do better? How can we make sure you feel welcome here?
I have to think about that for a sec.
Go right ahead.
That's a really good question because I think, as I was saying earlier, I think being different now isn't as difficult or seen as a bad thing as it was in earlier generations. So I think that's a good thing. I think that, like, you know, a lot of people nowadays are saying embrace who you are, embrace your culture, embrace your heritage, embrace where you came from. And back then, I think it was just kind of like, no, like stick to the mold, like fit into the mold and make yourself fit into it. So I think the advice that I would have for immigrants or anyone new to the country now, especially as a young child, is that like I know it's like really like confusing and everything's brand new and like, you know, there's cultures and traditions and your own family that, you know, you don't want to like disrespect or stray from tradition, and keep that with you, like keep the memories that you have from your homeland, from your native land, just with you and cherish those. But also like when it's not on trend anymore and when like people start like, you know, not annihilating you, but I can't find the like best word for it, but when it's no longer on trend to embrace who you are, keep doing it. Like, you know, never shy away from like being different and respect like what you had or what you do have because you are born from somewhere else, because that's what's something that you can teach other people. I remember growing up, it's always respect your elders, right? And I would see some of like kids in my grade, like they would yell at their mom or scream, I'm like, you got me so messed up because I know I'd get I'm like, no way, you know. So I think that it's just never forgetting where you came from and where you're going and and how you want to honor that. So I think that's just like something that I think about myself, like even if I haven't done everything that my parents wanted me to do, know that I can honor them in different ways, and I always just want to remember like what they also sacrificed for me and what I can do for them moving forward.
Yeah,
that's so beautiful.
Even if it's not right now. Like, so
yeah, that was wow.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really,
I'm kind of speechless.
Yeah, I'm
that was really well spoken.
Exactly. I really like the fact that you said even if it's not on brand, different, like
anymore,
who fucking cares? Be you, embrace you. And then that we kind of skipped over this question, but that kind of, I just wanted to see from your experience of being an immigrant and growing up an immigrant in this country, how did that kind of affect your like idea of home?
And honestly, if my cousins ever watch this, they're gonna be like, but I will always refer to the Philippines as home because that is my homeland. That is where I was born. Like, even if like I'm so Americanized now, my cousins think I'm the whitest of the white. Like, no, because I like the way I talk or just the way I present myself or whatever. Like, shout out to you guys. But like, you know, I will always refer to Philippines as home because even if you know that's not where, like, even if I don't know as much as I should with our politics right now and everything going on, which is a whole different
some Americans born and raised don't even know what's going on,
and that's true as well. And no, but like, and that's like, you know, ignorance is bliss. So I will always refer to it as my home, just because, and that's why it's like so important for me to go back this year because I've traveled like to all these different places, and I was supposed to go back to the Philippines this summer actually instead of going to Europe or whatever, but like I had to be pushed back because of some family reasons. So I told my mom, like, we went to the Pink concert this past weekend.
Oh, nice.
And even before that, I was just like, I'm going back home. She's like, seriously? Like, whatever. I was just like, yeah, if I have to go by myself, like, I will. Yeah. Because she wants us to all go together. And I was just like, I can't go another place. And I have other, like, places I want to go. But I can't go another place without going back there first. Because that just, like, that doesn't sit well with me. Like, I need to, like, you know, really just sit down and like remind myself where I came from.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you gotta go home.
I gotta go home. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks. You guys are such good listeners. I'm like, please let me know if I'm talking too much.
No,
you're not. Like, honestly,
I love this.
I know.
I just like love learning about everybody's, whatever their journey is, whatever they want to talk about. Like, I just love learning. So, thank you.
Thanks. Like I said, thanks for having me. This was something that was really like scary for me too, because I, you know, not a lot of people knew I was an immigrant until like later on, or some people, I don't know if they even know now.
Yeah.
So, you know, I just started sharing it the past few years because I'm like, no, there's nothing to be, you know, ashamed of or afraid of.
Absolutely
like,
not.
You know?
And your story is so important, and you give so many good lessons from where you came from and how you became the person you are today. So it's amazing, and we thank you for even being here doing that.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
like, thanks
I know. No, somebody likes talking to me. I'm like, oh, thank you.
No, like I really can't take a compliment. I go like, it's like an ugly face. Someone calls me beautiful. I'm like,
Okay, so now shifting gears a little bit, we're gonna go into another topic of generational trauma. And the first question that we had for you was, how did your family's history and the experiences of previous generations kind of shape your childhood?
So in the Philippines, it's kind of like common to like physically reprimand your child.
Okay.
As I'm sure it is in other cultures as well outside the U.S.
Yeah.
I'm Polish. That's very common.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
You're Polish?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I have my. Oh my God. I didn't know that you didn't. Yeah. My mom came here when she was like 20.
Okay. So she.
Yeah.
Okay. Heard.
Yeah.
And then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So.
See, so we definitely need to hang out more outside of this. 'Cause, like, okay. So, you know, in the Philippines and in the culture or whatever, it wasn't like so out there to physically like reprimand your child. So I know like my parents experienced that, and I experienced that. And also I think something that plays into that as well is like my parents' like my grandparents had my parents when they were super young. Okay. My parents also had me when they were young. So I think like I think about that now, and like I couldn't imagine, like I think my grandma had my dad when she was like 19 or something, and then I think around the same with my grandma and my mom, but my mom had me when she was like 21.
Okay.
Girl, oh my God.
I'm not even going to say nothing because.
Like, no, and I think that's like super common in like previous generations, right? I think it's really our generation now that's like, you got me so messed up.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Like, you know,
I can barely take care of myself.
Like, period. Like, no, because it's, and that's actually the thing is that like, I look back. So when I think about like, what my parents went through and what my grandparents went through as they're like, not even like fully an adult yet, you know, like maybe 18 is it, but it isn't really it. Yeah. You know, I think about that and like, I couldn't imagine like trying to raise another human being while also still trying to raise myself or figure out a way for me to survive and also live and like feed myself, you know? So I think that as I'm sure my grandparents were also like, I think it was just really common, you know? So like, you know, when I came out here and like I was just, and then I learned, I was like, oh, that's not a thing. Like I was like, Mom, Dad, like, no, not
I'm calling the cops.
Yeah, no, and they're like, if you ever, you know, you'd get like, you'd get left here, or you'd get sent back, and you wouldn't have. And I was like, that is so messed up. Like you guys cannot do that.
Gaslighting. No, my mom would say the same shit. She's like, they're gonna take you, and where are you gonna go then?
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly. I know. Like, who's gonna want you? And I was like, I guess. But I think I just see that too, and like my dad's parents also got divorced, and both my parents are firstborn. So my dad was the oldest of 3, my mom was the oldest of 2. So even if though it wasn't a big family, like my grandparents all had really big families. They were like 1 to 7 or 1 to 8 or however many. But even then, like I see that also being the firstborn and the oldest, I'm like, oh yeah, I feel that in my veins. Like, you know, you guys like still have things to work through that you got because of my grandparents or the parents before then. So yeah, I think it's just feeling that and seeing that, especially like just talking about like the physical side of it. I think like, you know, I always say I'm not going to do anything to my kids like that because your kids, you're meant to love them. But I think I also look at that as like my parents just also were young and didn't know any better.
Yeah.
Like, so I can't like, not that I'm excusing them for it, but it's just kind of like that was common in our culture, wasn't like super unheard of or like out there. So, but I definitely look back and I'm like, do you remember when you did that? And my parents don't even remember. And same with my grandparents, with my parents. They're like, I don't remember doing that. And I'm like,
well, I remember.
Yeah,
well, you did. Like, that is clear. The trauma. Like, that is what's in my head. So, yeah.
Were there any other like rules or expectations your family had that kind of led that you look back on now and you're like, oh yeah, this definitely is part of my generational trauma?
It's, and when I was really thinking about this, the word that just like came was stoic. Wow. Get it right, Fran.
You're good.
You're good.
Being like stoic and there's like a specific, it's gonna bother the shit out of me.
You got it.
Stoicism. That's gotta be.
You were teaching me a bunch of new words.
No, it's okay. I'm hoping I'm using them correctly. Whoever like watches this, if I'm not, like seriously, let me know.
I'm so bad with words, so honestly, you could say something and I'd be like,
say it. Yes. Stoicism.
I can spell better than I can say sometimes. It's STOICISM. Stoicism. Essentially, like being stoic. So, like, even though you're experiencing pain and hardship and all of that, nothing. You're not going to express your emotions. You're not going to let them, like, you know, like suffering in silence, essentially. So I remember growing up, like, it was kind of like my parents, even though we came here legally and everything, like, you know, we went by the book, visas, dependent, like whatever it was. My parents never wanted me to talk about my status. Okay. And I think that's why even when we were learning about citizenships and immigration and like all of that, like I remember saying like, oh, I'm not a citizen here. And they're like, what are you, an alien? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe
like your parents were saying this too?
No, like my class, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So while we were learning about it in class, like they were like immigration, citizenship status, like all of that. I was like, oh, like I'm not a citizen here, like whatever. And like someone in my class is like, oh, like what are you, like an alien or whatever? And I'm like, I honestly don't know. And like even as we were learning about immigrants and all of that, like it still didn't click in my head because my parents were very like, no, don't talk about it, don't say anything, like, because I think it was also like their fear of like people acting weird around me, or just in general, like it wasn't something that they ever wanted me to be open about.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, not don't ask, don't tell, but just don't say shit.
Yeah.
Like don't say anything. Like I knew it was really important for me right before I went to college to get my permanent residence card, so I'd be eligible for FAFSA. And that was when it like fully clicked with me. I was just like, oh, that's why. So I can receive these benefits that if I didn't have this, like I wouldn't be able to even like go to school because I wouldn't receive aid, you know, and like student loans and like whatever. Yeah, but like who wants that? So but going back to like the stoicism, so when I was growing up, it was kind of like, if there was ever anything going on at home, you don't talk about it outside the family. And me being very like, you can read my face, I'm an easy read 100%.
Right.
And like growing up like that, I just remember I was like, huh? Like, I was like, and it didn't like sit well with me, but I remember like every time my parents pissed me off or like they did something that upset me, I would never want them to see my face. I would always try to like keep an even face. I never wanted them to see me cry because I'm like, you're not going to see me like that. Like it's like, I'm not going to be viewed as weak. Like I'm going to endure this and I'm going to keep going, even if I have to go back in my room and cry all night, or like even like with certain things. And that's why now one of the things I'm experiencing is really learning how to feel my emotions. And like not suffering in silence, which is kind of hard because I feel like I say my emotions all the time now to people, and they're probably like, shut the fuck up, Fran, we're tired of hearing your shit. But like I'm also kind of like, no, like this is because as a child, like I didn't know how to express anything.
You didn't get the opportunity to do that,
or like, you know, or know that it was fine to feel my emotions. That's why I'm in therapy now. Like, you know, so yeah.
But good for you, because again, like a lot of people don't look back on their childhood and figure out like what happened, like why they are the way they are today, and then try to make a change for the better. So it's good that it's not good that all of this has happened to you, but it's good that you're taking the time now when you are like independent and on your own to really reflect on those things and change your life for the better. So that's a lot.
Because I don't have kids.
Yeah.
I feel like if my parents, if like anyone had that same opportunity to really look within themselves and like start unpacking, start realizing like what could have affected them as they were growing up. You know, like those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. So like,
that was I like that. That's
good.
A
quote. That's a powerful quote.
I think about that with everything. Like too, because it's just like, as I'm still also sometimes toxic, and I have like my toxic habits.
Okay, we don't have to talk about that.
So we're not learning. So you choose to say in that. So you're dumb. No, but then I'm like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Like you're just gonna keep going or keep learning. Keep growing. So so I think that's like really like what I've seen as I'm growing up, and I'm also trying to get from my parents straight. I'm just like, hey, like, you know, like communicate with me. Let me know what it is instead of just staying silent or like letting it fester and then you blow up on me and I'm like, what the fuck? And that was because something of that happened like so long ago that I can't even like know or like fully talk about it anymore because you didn't bring it up then. So yeah, I think that's
I have a question. So where did this kind of self-drive to kind of end the cycle come from? Because it seems like the previous generation before you, and it came from the generation before that. What makes you want to be the end of this cycle?
I have a 13-year-old sister, so she just turned 13 this year, and I always say she's the love of my life. She, you know, I actually told her that I was going to be in this podcast, and she's like, "Where is it? Like, I don't watch it." And I was like, "I don't know."
No, she can watch.
I want you to see it. No, just in general, because I was just like, I don't want her to show. Like,
okay, gotcha.
Even though if my parents did watch this, I think they'd be fine and everything. But I was just like, no, I like, this is something I'm scared to do, and I want to talk about it as well. And it's like, I always tell my sister, I'm like, and this was because I did grow up, like, I have depression, like, I have anxiety, like, I'm still working through it now. It comes in waves. But I told her, I was like, I don't know where I would be if you were here, but that's not something I want her to, like, hold on to because, you know, like, but I tell her all the time, like, thank you for being here, because it's like, I never thought when I was younger, I always had this thing in my head, my favorite number was 23, and I never thought I'd make it past 23. So when I turned 23 and my golden birthday was 24, I was just like, oh, you're here, like it said, so you either like, what's gonna happen, or are you gonna keep going, or you keep, you know, trying to make things better. And things happened, and like, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but like things happen like in my family and like personally that it was actually a birthday of mine. It was Thanksgiving too. That I was just like, okay, like if I don't go and seek help now, or if I don't really like try to figure out how to break out of this cycle, I'm never gonna get better. So like I've been in therapy for like over a year now, like about a year and a half. I'm still learning so much. I still have so much to go. I actually have an appointment with her tomorrow. But it's kind of like, yeah, I'm still learning. I'm still trying to figure out how to help my sister and my parents and have that vulnerability and open communication and all those things, while also like realizing that it's okay to like live for me as well. Like it's okay to have my own experiences and like, you know, do something for myself, but trying to really, you know, I feel like as of late I've been tethering the line of like, what is like self-care versus just selfish? What is something that, you know, like you want to do in order to create a better version of yourself, or something that you are just ignoring because you don't want to deal with it right now. So, and like doing that and trying to navigate that with the boundaries, with the imposter syndrome, with being like in my late 20s. I turned 28 and I'm like, oh my God, I feel so old, but I'm like, shut the fuck up. You're like, you know, like you're still kind of young. No, we are young.
You are.
So I was like, no way. Like, see, let's like change that narrative. No, we are young, but it's like kind of like where you're seeing everybody like either have kids or like get married or like all these different things. It's just, I don't know, crazy. So.
But you know, like what a good role model you are for your sister, because even if you're not even actively like sitting her down and talking things through with her, she sees you and she sees how you are creating your own life and creating your own path. And I'm 100% confident that she is proud of you and that she's going to really like look at you when she's older and she's going to say like, hey, I'm where I am today because of you. I saw you do this when she was growing up. She's 13. Like, this is like the primal years right here. So you being this girl boss, going out and doing your own thing, like that's so empowering, and I'm so glad she gets to see that from you.
Yeah, and your family's really lucky to have you and like having that different mindset. You know that it doesn't have to be this way, and that's hard.
Yeah,
so it takes a lot of courage to do that. You know.
Yeah. I think especially when there's like preconceived notions or like old ways of thought that are like, you know, like I didn't go the stereotypical route. I went to a year of college in New Orleans and then bounced out. And then now I'm still like doing everything and trying to, you know, work in corporate America. While also trying to balance like, you know, school and like doing everything else. I'm like, so it's not the traditional route, but
look, you could still live a fulfilling, amazing life. So you're just showing everybody out there that is totally fine.
I'm like, oh my God. No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's also something I'm trying to learn, is accepting confidence. As I roll my eyes. No, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
Of course.
And then to wrap up this segment, I just wanted to see, how do you think generational trauma intersects with the immigrant experience, if they even do intersect, in your opinion?
I think that no one, when like they start, you know, really growing, or like as a kid, you know, I don't think anyone wants to leave their homeland. I don't like, unless like, you know, obviously there are certain circumstances and instances like can't even imagine or speak to it, but if you are in your homeland and it's like a, you know, that's where you were born and everything is like good and like you have your family there and like there's not some crazy shit going on that like makes you want to move or you have to move. I think if everyone would want to be where they're at, like obviously travel, like I love to travel, I love to do all those things, but I don't think that anyone wants to truly, unless like the one-offs or the few, but like, you know, like especially as a kid, I don't think anyone wants to move somewhere else that they don't know. You know, so I think that when someone does, it's because they're experiencing horrible things in their native land, or they're seeking more opportunity than they could and where they're at or where they were born. So I think automatically, even especially as a child, moving from one place to another where you don't know the culture or you don't know the language or the people, the traditions, like it can go on for so many, like so many things.
Right.
That's not going to be like a woohoo, like, you know, typically, like, unless you were, I think, born with privilege, or you like, you know, you were geared up and ready to go, like you took all the classes, you were aware you had a good instructor or whatever. But most people, like, especially with what's going on right now, they're not moving here because they're like,
I want to go to America.
It's like they have no other choice.
Out of, like safety, you know. So I think that anyone, I don't want to say anyone because I don't want it to be so broad, but I think like most people, like I'll speak for me personally. Like if I didn't know that I was like gonna be here for as long as I have, I don't know if I would have as willingly come here as I did when I was younger, because I was so happy where I was at as well. Even though like Philippines is like, you know, it has its own shit, third world country, poverty, like all these things, like I was still happy. I was a happy kid. I didn't experience feelings of like depression or anxiety and like all of these things until I came here. And I was like, what is that? Like I don't know what that is. So yeah, I think, you know, not automatically, maybe. I don't want to say it comes like that for people, but I think when you're moving somewhere new, that foreign, that you don't know, like, there's got to be something there that you're going to, like, go back to, and you're like, that experience wasn't great. Like, you know, I'm going to hold that with me, or you're going to remember. Like, I remember 3rd grade, some guy told me Chinese don't wear polka dots. And I do not wear polka dots to this day. I hate polka dots. And I remember it was picture day, such a cute long top, polka dots everywhere. I felt so cute and fresh. And he said that, and now I don't wear polka dots. And that was so stupid, right? Like, literally, so, and like, he was such a small kid, could have beat him up. Like, stupid. Like, you know, like, and my parents always say he just had a crush on me or whatever, but I'm like, doesn't matter.
No,
you
like,
told me Chinese don't wear polka dots. First of all, I'm not Chinese. Second of all, fuck you. Like, you know, I never didn't know that, obviously, whatever, but like, I was so offended. I was like, what? Like, you know, and that's something I hold to this day as an almost 20-year-old woman, and that was, I was like 8 turning 9 or like whatever that was. So, you know, you hold that with you. Super silly, super like minute or whatever, but
to you it wasn't.
So I don't wear polka dots to this day.
So that's so terrible. But I mean, when I was a teacher, we had a lot of students come from Ukraine. So, and I mean, they were seeing like, you know, they had to come here for those safety reasons and things like that. And like, they didn't speak any English, but like the one thing that they would say is, I just want to go home. Like, oh, as a teacher, like, I mean, as anybody, like hearing that from a child, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, like I love that you're here and that you're safe, but like I wish you could go back home too, and I wish it was a place that was safe for you. And it's just so sad because some of those people come with like just one parent or something. So even those kids would just be like, my dad's not here. Like, I don't know where my dad is. Like, my dad's still there, and just like, hearing them like their stories and how they are, I'm just like, wow. I just give so much props to people that do come here for any reason, like no matter what it is, because it is not easy.
Hard. It's a tumultuous experience.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, like I said, I've been blessed. Like you know, I've always had like everything, even if it was just the scrap, like I would have something, you know. So I think of that, and that's why I want to work with kids, right? I want to do everything, even though I'm in corporate or whatever. I'm so thankful for my job.
There's so many ways you could still get in there.
Like, and that's, but I think of that, and it just like, it does break my heart because like I, you know, came here with both of my parents were already here, but like I think of people in Ukraine, and I think of everything that is going on in the world right now, and not, you know, it's not good.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. I know you were scared, and this is a nerve-wracking thing, and it's a scary topic to, you know, divulge to whoever listens to this, you know. So we do appreciate you coming on, and just everything we heard. Like, I truly, I say this, I feel like at the end of every podcast, but I'm serious. Like, I learned so much during this one. Right. And it was just, although maybe your experience coming here at first wasn't great, it's so beautiful to see the person you are now. And I mean, again, I just met you, and just to just like to hear your story and just to see where you are now is a beautiful thing. So I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate you listening and like having me on and like inviting me to come, and the drinks and, just the conversation, like, because it is like something that I don't talk to a lot of people about like that, so to even just take this time to, even for me to relive some of my experiences and then to share that and say it out loud, it's kind of like cathartic for me too, to be like, oh my God, like that did happen, like you did do that, you did experience that, and now like
so, kind of and is then a little weight lifted off your shoulder,
how you said that this was helpful to you. There's, I mean, it's America, land of the free, home of the great, whatever the hell. Like, there's so many immigrants here too. That's the thing. It's like such a melting pot. So your story might have impacted somebody, to like kind of start thinking about their past and maybe like reflect on, hey, maybe there's something I need to unpack here too. So you never know who's watching.
I hope so. That's actually really why I did want to come on too. Like, I wanted it to be something that I was scared of to do, but I also just wanted to share, like, anyone. I feel like this is my first time really. I just like wanted to share, like, I think that everyone deserves a chance, and everyone has the right to. As I was like gonna say that, I'm like, no, I think it's just like everyone deserves a chance, and like even if we all didn't come from the same background, the same like economic status, like culture or whatever, like you can still make the best of the situation that you're in.
Right.
So I don't know if that was like super corny.
No,
but like
everything you're saying is on point, honestly.
No, that was gonna kind of tie into our last question is, what advice do you have for people in their 20s? Both, it could be for this topic, it could be for anything, kind of.
Be bold. Do things that you're afraid of doing, like this, like I'm doing this right now. But then also and I know this is super contradictory, but something that I'm learning right now is, I have it like on my mirror. It's like, be still, get comfortable. So once you do find like some sort of peace, or you find like something, like you just find some sort of content, like get comfortable in that. It's okay to not be running around all the time, and like having activities, so on and so forth. But also do things that you're scared to do. Like, so it's like finding that balance, right? Just like two contradictory things, but it's like finding that balance. And then I have like a quote that was my senior high school quote, and it's be soft, do not let the world make you hard, do not let the pain make you hate, do not let the bitterness steal your sweetness. So after everything, I know there's so much shit going on right now in the world, but also remembering that, like, there is good, there is beauty, and just be kind, be soft, be in your soft girl era.
I think that's so important to hear right now,
especially in your 20s. No better time than now,
that's so true.
The 20s are a time.
It's such a time.
A lot of learning, a lot of growing, but that's I feel like that's the best
part
of it.
I'm growing so much just from this podcast, honestly. Like, hearing your story, everybody's story is just, I don't know. You can only like learn from others, and I feel like you only know so much yourself that if you don't open your heart up, your mind up to others and like their experiences and their point of views, you're gonna be kind of like a meh.
That's so true.
Like I think there's no way. You learn from others, right?
Right.
Like, loneliness is the killer. Right. If you don't share yourself, then
exactly. So thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
I know. Yes, and thank you for coming.
Listening. This was amazing. Thanks so much. I love what you guys are doing here. What you ladies. I'm trying not to say guys as much. No, I love what you ladies are doing here. I think it really is important to have these conversations and like to like take time to like ask these questions too. I love the questions that you had because it made me really think, and I was like, do I even know the answer to that one? Like, so thank you again for having me. I've had such a great time.
Oh, of course. Thank you. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Bye.